What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world but keep the sky on your mind.
All right, let's go live.
I'm talking about live.
What's that?
What?
I heard him mumble
All
something
right,
about
guys.
telling us to go live.
Alex is on his own planet, I think. He's still recovering, apparently.
Drone racing.
He thought he was recovered. He's not recovered. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the town hall this evening. Tonight with us, we've got Alex, Dan, Dave, and myself. We've got a couple news articles to cover, and we'll kind of go from there. So I'll go ahead and jump this one up. This is not the greatest news, but apparently a CNN employee was operating a drone that crashed at a Boston Celtics watch party, injuring a couple of fans. So the drone that crashed at the Banner Knights Boston Celtics watch party at City Hall Plaza, injuring fans and sending one to the hospital, was being operated by a CNN employee. The pumped-up fans had gathered for the opening night game against the Knicks Tuesday night, along with musical performance and the TNT pregame, halftime, and postgame shows. Meanwhile, a CNN employee was operating a drone to get footage of the stage performance. He flew the drone between two trees and accidentally struck a light pole, causing the drone to crash, the Boston police report reads. He further stated he was operating the drone as an employee of cable news network. Two fans at the watch party were struck by the falling drone. Officer Bartle, while assigned to the Boston Celtics watch party on City Hall Plaza, observed a low-flying drone strike a light pole. After striking the light pole, Officer Bartle observed the drone then fall and struck two victims. One of the fans felt a significant pain on her head, neck, and left shoulder. She was transported to the hospital. Another fan was bleeding heavily from his right hand. He was being treated at the scene and declined further medical attention. So,
I'm guessing it wasn't the smallest drone out there.
I'm guessing it probably was not. That seems like a significant impact there. And,
It doesn't
and possibly
say
some prop cut.
anything about the size or...
DJI Mavic 3, so not terribly large.
Hmm.
So, not the greatest news for the hobby or for the industry, but things happen from time to time, and
yeah, we've worked.
Go ahead.
We've worked with the CNN team there. They manage a fleet of drones. They're very professional. So this is, stuff happens. We know that the CNN team is very safety conscious. They're very concerned about flying with all the appropriate certifications, and so they are a by the book team. So I would imagine that they immediately cooperated with local and federal authorities, and so this is unfortunate, but it happens even to a team that's well prepared and adheres to every safety protocol and regulation that's out there.
Yeah, so it says on-site medical and safety personnel immediately attended to the situation. We're currently investigating and further wish all involved well. So, and the FAA said that they were deferring some of it to local authorities, although there is an investigation. So, just FYI on that. So unfortunate, but again, things happen, and hopefully, there's some correction of errors and some definite thought on how to proceed further on that. So um,
No Maddie flips into light poles.
yeah, no, that's for sure. So this comes from the Drone Girl, and this is surprisingly, or this is nuanced for the UK. However, it does provide some different perspective on, do people think drone delivery is actually useful? So um, a new 2024 study digs into public perception around drone delivery, and in particular, how valuable people think it really is. The results might surprise you, because while drones are seen as a potential game changer in certain areas, such as emergency response, their appeal for everyday drone delivery is more nuanced. And this is coming from research funded by the UK Research and Innovation Future Flight Challenge, and delivered by Innovate UK and the Economic and Social Research Council. I'm going to cut directly to some of the surveys here. So, where the general public sees drone delivery as most useful. So, the categories were delivery of mail, parcels, or packages to individual households, delivery of the same to collection hubs, delivery of medical supplies, blood samples, or tests, inspection of infrastructure to support emergency services response, police surveillance, police monitoring borders, and to support disaster relief within the UK. And you can kind of see some of the higher, I guess, responses are going to be up above, and they really kind of err towards delivery of medical supplies, inspection of infrastructure, emergency services, and disaster relief within the UK. So things that didn't fare so well was delivery of mail, parcels, and packages, both categories, as well as police surveillance and police monitoring of borders.
Boy, those graphs are really difficult to read and sort of misleading. Like in some cases, 54% is like 3/4 the way up the graph instead of being
Right.
halfway up the graph.
Yeah,
I don't
totally.
quite get it.
And the different colors there determine different kind of categories. So beneficial in urban locations is that purpley color. Uh, the beneficial in suburban locations is that kind of light teal. Beneficial in rural locations is a darker teal. And then beneficial in remote or isolated locations is the lighter lavender, I guess we're going to go with. And then the gray is not beneficial. So you can see the highest level of not beneficials were really the delivery of mail, police surveillance, and police monitoring of borders. So that's definitely a really interesting response there, especially as things like drones as first responders is kind of taking off in certain areas of the country, specifically in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But again, geared towards the UK, so take that for what it is. But at the same time, possibly transferable, right? So,
Who are
Yeah,
those
well, this
2% that don't think drones are useful to emergency services?
right.
yes, yes, yeah. This when I first saw this, I thought, wait a second, this is an emerging market, and so the research that they're doing is to ask someone from the public, hey, what do you think? And that's going to be telling in terms of the costs and the. But I thought that the responses were generally what we would hope in terms of, and also what we've been talking about, things like we don't get the monetization of delivering mail or delivering sodas, but we absolutely get it in terms of an infrastructure inspection. We think it's also medical delivery. These are things that the the cost is justified and the rapid response is critical. So I thought, okay, well, they must have done a good job of asking the right questions. And interesting the way that the public then over in the UK then responded. And because, of course, if you're trying to sell into these markets, and with a drone service, that the public response is going to be very important from a perspective of how easily will you be able to continue to do your business. Of course, in the U.S., we always worry about our drones being shot out of the sky. A little less of that in the UK.
And they do mention Zipline, who has really pioneered the delivery of medical supplies, specifically in Africa, and has moved some of their services here into the United States, and who really, I mean, has pioneered that 1 million drone delivery milestone fairly recently, and really just taking care of that kind of aspect, especially in places in Africa where things are few and far between, and getting medical supplies to a location quickly can often mean the difference between life and death, right? So, and then there's another survey here: how likely is drone delivery in the next decade? So they kind of have a likelihood of non-passenger drones becoming widespread in 10 years' time. And I feel like that's kind of a weird question.
What is widespread?
Right?
Aren't they already?
Right. And the top one was very likely for police surveillance, and very likely for inspection of maintenance and infrastructure in hard-to-reach or high-risk environments. I mean, two things that have really kind of taken hold as of right now in the United States, right? There's a lot of inspection with drones, whether it be bridges or
railroad, electrical firms, cell phone towers. Absolutely.
Yep.
A ton of inspection.
100%. So, and then supporting emergency services, that's becoming fairly a little more common, right? Farming and agriculture, that's starting to take off here in the United States. And so definitely interesting to see the different, on the other side of the pond, right? What the expectation is. So pretty interesting kind of thought. And this is coming with the, for me and my area, Amazon, and we'll kind of cover this here in a later article, Amazon's seeking approval to begin deliveries here in Arizona and specifically in my area. So that doesn't seem to have been approved yet, but is definitely on the FAA's charts. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting year and a half coming up from that perspective. But definitely some interesting feedback. I mean, a lot of the things that we've said in terms of drone delivery for packages and parcels is kind of reflected in this survey, right? So, but yeah, it just seems like I would say the outliers, the don't knows, and if going up here, the people who feel like it's non-beneficial are the people. Those are going to be your classic naysayers, right? The people who are maybe a little leery of the technology, right? Or don't know enough about it and haven't been educated. So, just a thought from that perspective. Any other thoughts on this one, guys?
Nope.
All right, cool. So this is kind of a hot topic right now. Is Part 108 on track? So
what's the rule about news article headlines if they end in a question mark?
Probably not. So in the U.S., drone companies and operators are eagerly awaiting clear guidance or guidelines for beyond visual line of sight operations. The promise of a new Part 108 ruling from the FAA in the coming year has UAV leaders enthusiastic about the future, but recent developments have raised serious concerns. In bold, and I'm just going to throw this out there, missed deadline. So color me shocked, and Most notably, the FAA administration missed its September 16th deadline for publishing regulations on beyond visual line of sight drone operations, a deadline mandated by the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2024. According to an article in Drone XL, issuing these regulations was meant to be the first major step toward establishing a comprehensive framework for advanced drone operations in the U.S. airspace, and the delay could stall growth in the drone industry. As Drone XL said, drone manufacturers are left waiting for clear guidelines while technology companies developing autonomous systems remain in limbo. Service providers planning BVLOS operations must continue to operate under restrictive waivers, and companies investing in drone delivery infrastructure face uncertain timelines. Perhaps most critically, public safety organizations seeking to expand their capabilities are forced to maintain limited operations. Is the NPRM on track for the end of 2024? Another federal requirement for federal regulators is the issuance of the required NPRM, which is the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. For those who were around when Remote ID was founded, everybody's very familiar with the NPRM. But for those who aren't, it's basically a way for the FAA to roll out their proposed rule and for the public to comment on it. And I forget what the number was. Was it like 35,000?
53,000.
53,000. Thank you. I got the numbers mixed up. So 53,000 comments on the remote ID.
Higher than what the FAA had ever received by an order of magnitude.
Yeah, absolutely. So once the NPRM is published, the document will be open for public comment, typically for a period ranging from 30 to 90 days. When this period ends, stakeholders will have to provide input before the final Part 108 ruling is issued, which is expected to be sometime in 2025. Brandon Roberts, the FAA's executive director of the Federal Aviation Administration's Office of Rulemaking, said, "We're hopeful the NPRM will be published before the end of the year, and we hope we receive many comments." Do you really hope that?
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the goal.
Remote ID.
The goal shouldn't be to get a lot of comments, I guess, unless they want a lot of people saying good job or something. But
right. So, I mean, the goal should be writing a common sense rule that people can really get behind. But, we'll see how that rolls out, right?
And so we are, of course, watching this closely. And if you're familiar with recreational Part 107, there's a new Part 108, which we anticipate will be a higher level of ability and ability to fly very far away beyond visual line of sight and require a type cert aircraft, as well as much more certification and testing requirements on the pilot. And in the Beyond Visual Line of Sight Aviation Rulemaking Committee, Dan and I participated in that, and there were many of these requests were made. And as we've talked about, we're happy that we are hopeful because the FAA has provided some hint that one of the chapters in the NPRM for Beyond Visual Line of Sight will be a recreational chapter. So we're ready for it. We've been reviewing the BVLOS ARC, and we're also hearing hints and winks about, well, probably not December 2024. So nothing new that if the FAA misses a deadline with an NPRM, hopefully it's not too far beyond, because this would certainly help a variety of companies create and issue products that are capable of these rules a little further and get us a little more competitive around the world.
100%. So just to kind of touch base on this, so the Commercial Drone Alliance has urged federal rulemakers to hold their commitment to produce the NPRM by the end of the year. The significance of issuing the draft rule this year cannot be overstated, the CDA says. Today, drone operations beyond visual line of sight require costly, lengthy, and case-by-case FAA approval processes, which prevent beneficial operations as well as inhibit companies from scaling in the United States. It's not sustainable. So, just it's kind of holding people back right now. And let's hope we get this pushed forward here pretty quick. So, all right, not surprisingly, drone maker DJI sues the Pentagon over Chinese military company label. So, Chinese drone maker DJI has sued the U.S. Department of Defense, alleging it was added to a list of companies affiliated with the Chinese military and denied the opportunity to protest its innocence. DJI followed the lawsuit last week to protest its inclusion on the DoD's list of Chinese military companies, insisting that it isn't owned or controlled by the nation's military forces and that it doesn't manufacture drones for military purposes. DJI said it filed the lawsuit in protest its inclusion on the list after trying for more than a year to pry a justification out of the Defense Department so it could argue a rebuttal.
Like we all have.
Right? DJI, through outside counsel, sought to engage with the DoD over more than a 16-month period to understand the rationale for DJI's designation, obtain the administrative record, and provide DoD with facts demonstrating that DJI is not a Chinese military company under the statutory criteria, the manufacturer said in its lawsuit.
I'm sure, pretty sure Dave's already told us exactly why they want to ban DJI, right? China bad? What more do they need to know?
All right. So DJI submitted a delisting petition in July 2023, but received no response except for the DoD redesignating it as a CMC in January 2024 after initially adding it to the list in 2022. At that point, the drone maker began considering legal action according to the filing. On September 6, 2024, DJI, having determined that it had no other reasonable option available, informed the DoD that it planned to seek judicial relief. The drone maker claimed in its suit. Only then did DoD produce a courtesy copy of an internal report that it described as containing the full rationale for DJI's designation. DJI asserts the report contains a scattershot set of claims that are wholly inadequate, including the application of an incorrect legal standard, confusion of Chinese naming convention, stale alleged facts, and other issues that indicate DJI's designation was deeply flawed.
I'm just laughing at the Chinese naming convention because DJI does not have a good history of naming drones and drone parts and goggles and things very well, but
yeah, accurate. I mean,
I'm guessing that's not what they're talking about, but
probably not. No. So it says, along with those allegations, DJI says it simply doesn't meet the criteria set out under Section 1260H of the 2021 National Defense Authorization Act that outlines the criteria for being designated as a CMC. According to that rule, companies either owned, controlled, or beneficially owned by Chinese military or political entities, or one that acts as a military-civil fusion contributor to the Chinese defense industrial base can be considered a CMC. So, we'll see how this pans out. I mean,
a couple of comments on this one. The first is this. The organization writing this article, theregistered.com, is a trade rag out of the UK that I've been reading for years. And it's an excellent publication. They have a fantastic sense of humor. And when I was working in acquisitions, it was very frustrating. How could these people get a hold of information on acquisitions I was working on? So they do a great job of investigative reporting. I have never known them to lie. So this is a periodical or a trade rag that I trust. And it's in addition, we did see Representative Stefanik jump on this bandwagon. So we have the variety of legislation that Representative Stefanik is pushing. And now this is yet another angle to go after DJI. So we felt it absolutely important to talk about this. And so this is, to us, this is an issue. We don't see that this is, that DJI is a military manufacturer by the definitions, but our Department of Defense apparently does.
So this is kind of interesting. So the manufacturer has also been accused of supplying drones for Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which it vehemently denied before suspending sales of its drones in both countries, saying it didn't want to see anyone use its devices for warfare. That hasn't stopped Russia from acquiring DJI drones for use on the front lines, which the outfit has continued to protest. That's hardly on DJI, however. Even parts from U.S. manufacturers end up in the hands of Iran and Russia.
What's that link take you to? Just
Which,
curious. And
yeah, let's see.
which U.S. components are they talking
The
about?
chip industry's open secret adversaries' military tech relies on U.S. components. Oh, from CNBC.
That's from a
Yeah.
year ago.
Yeah, 100%. So it says the entire argument may be moot if a pending piece of legislation ends up becoming law, though. The Countering CCP Drones Act was essentially banned DJI devices by prohibiting them from operating on U.S. communications infrastructure. So, yeah.
Bill sponsored,
Anyway.
at least Stefanik, right?
Yep, 100%. All right, so we'll see how this pans out. It'll definitely be interesting, and hopefully we can overcome this and continue to allow DJI drones in the United States. They are a staple for everyone, and I'm sure it's like, okay, they're still coming from China, okay, but these drones are a staple in industries across the United States, whether it be drones as first responders, agriculture, inspection, you name it, they're a staple in it. And by restricting them without a viable alternative that is affordable for these companies, it becomes a massive burden on trade in the United States, right? So just think of it from that perspective. But all right. This I thought was an interesting article, and Dave, thank you for sending it to me. So, U.S. Marines test a counter drone rifle aiming system with an automatically moving stock. This is some sketchy tech that is very interesting. So, the U.S. Marines are testing a system for standard service rifles that automatically fine-tunes the point of aim with the help of a powered buttstock as a new option to help shoot down drones. The service is in the midst of a broad push to acquire new capabilities to help every Marine better protect themselves from ever-growing uncrewed aerial threats. The 3rd Marine Division in Hawaii released pictures today from a live-fire demonstration of a 5.56 by 45 millimeter M27 infantry rifle, automatic rifle, equipped with a Zero Mark fire control system. Zero Mark is a New York-based startup that was founded in 2022 and says that it has deep roots in Israel. The company announced a new infusion of $7 million in venture capital to support the ongoing development of its counter-drone fire control system in May. So it uses artificial intelligence-powered tool that enhances aim accuracy and counter-drone capabilities, providing Marines with a portable, real-time threat detection and response tool. So, for those of you who play video games, this is an aimbot in real life.
I want to see how well it does against somebody flying an FPV drone. Has anybody tested that? I want to see.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'd be interesting. So the way that they describe it in here, and I'm going to basically you basically just have to get close, and it takes over and does the rest. So the targeting system in Zero Mark's fire control system is similar in some very broad strokes to that of the Smash family. It uses an array of sensors, including electro-optical cameras and LiDAR, coupled with machine vision and advanced software algorithms to acquire targets, according to the company. Where Zero Mark's offering differs most substantially is its motorized articulating buttstock, which uses the data from the sensors to help physically move the gun's point of aim. This, in turn, helps the shooter engage the target with greater precision. So this is from Zero Mark CEO Joel Anderson. Doesn't move the mechanized buttstock doesn't move the soldier's arm. It creates a virtual pivot between the shoulder pad and handheld positions that creates an angular change of the bore axis, ultimately where the gun's pointed. The control systems for it are modeled to compensate for all human factors like proprioception, I apologize, noise, movement, and torque, as well as the drone's movement. So if you point it in the general direction of the drone, such that you'd be in the vicinity of a drone, the system does the rest.
Yeah, I still want to see it. If there's an FPV drone moving really fast, the gun's gonna be like going all over the
Well,
place.
if you think about it, and here's the thing to think about, Dan, is that the majority, I would say, well, maybe not the majority, but a large number of drones that are being used over in Ukraine are FPV drones, right? And
Yeah.
so that's I would say that's probably the threat that they're gearing towards. So he says the overall Zero Mark says its fire control systems makes hitting a small drone at 200 yards as easy as hitting a 60-foot diameter circle at the same range. Like what?
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, and it can be installed on several different types of rifles. So
What was
I
interesting to
wonder-
me about this is that they're using conventional rounds. I mean, that's really interesting.
well, a
to me.
5.56 is a very small round.
Very small, right? But this is, it's not, some intelligent projectile. It's
No.
a piece of lead.
Yeah. So
Well,
what were you gonna say, Alex?
I'm wondering if this could be misused or I guess abused by an FPV drone pilot in war, whereas the pilot would fly their drone in front of the other people and someone's trying to shoot at the drone and then you get friendly fire. And, they use the heat of the moment to trick, I guess, the enemy in that case, or whoever's firing the gun, enemy of the drone pilot, or
Yeah, I get where you're going.
to fire friendly fire at someone.
It's possible, right? But that would be up to the discretion of the, hopefully trained person that is behind that rifle, right?
But I'm curious if that tactic might be used because I could definitely see that.
I could imagine back in the day a really good Rotor Riot video of them going to this company and doing a demonstration and a test and seeing its capabilities. And
that was one of the OG Rotor Riot videos too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It's like redo that, but a little different with modern drones and this gun.
Well, and here's where it gets sketchy, right? What at some point somebody's going to write some software that changes what the target is, right? So what does that look like down the road? And that's where I get a little that's a little weird, right? So, and they even talk about it. So talk about changing a wider array of target types in the future, right? So it's that ever-evolving smart gun, right? So
is this outlawed in clay pigeon shooting, trap shooting?
It might be, yes. Competition shoot, right? So yeah. All right, so we'll see where that goes too. I mean, here's the deal. Number one, I'm all about keeping our troops safe. So number one there, I'm all about that. But number two, I'm a little, call me sketchy on the use of this outside of what it's intended for. So just a thought experiment there for everybody, right? So
And from a business and financial perspective, $7 million, second round, it's not a big investment. So this startup out of New York is not looking for an insane amount of money. In normal software firms, this would be very small. A 10 times this number, 50 times this number would be pretty normal. So to just go after 7 million, interesting. And frequently companies like this will try to minimize the amount of dilution they get in their own investment. So it gives you a hint that they're probably pretty confident with this technology.
100%. And I mean, just going after 7 million, if that's enough to get you the contract with the Marines, right, with the U.S. government, I mean, that puts you in
That's a good thing. Yep.
very good position, right? So, all right. Last but not least, environmental review and public involvement for drone operations. So, Dave, you want to take a little bit of this because it's a little lengthy.
So I looked at this as a what was not written, and so reading between the lines. So, well, one of the FAA gave. Let's see, if you'd scroll down, what was the one where they gave it was highlighted, and so the FAA approved the NEPA requirements for, and I was trying, and it's for package delivery, I believe, and it was a specific. Was it? And so that this is important from my view, is when we've worked with the FAA on the NEPA requirements, and so it's what's the environmental impact of drones. First and foremost, it's noise. And there's been a fair amount of research about what the noise problem of a drone is. And oh, by the way, DJI has done a great job on this, getting their drones a lot quieter and also changing the frequencies. The prior frequencies of drones 4 or 5 years ago were such that they created a very annoying sound. So the DJI has been clever to shift what the drone sounds like. And so this is important, and it should be interesting, and I'm hoping that it's a precedent set that the FAA is working to approve delivery drones around noise pollution. That's significant. So one of the areas that when we've worked on the BVLOS ARC were delivery drones in densely populated areas. So you're delivering into a neighborhood. It's a suburban area. People are not going to be really thrilled about drone deliveries. And the first reason they're not going to be thrilled is noise pollution. So this is the FAA giving approval for NEPA or an EPA, and it's, as I say, it's predominantly a noise issue. And there's a list of other issues that when we remember when the FAA came out with the PEA, the Programmatic Environmental Assessment for recreational and for FRIAs, and so this to me was one of those and because we've been at this a couple of years, this provided some interesting background. So I would anticipate that we see a number of NEPA approvals with other drone delivery companies, and this could get some blowback or pushback from communities. It's like, wait a second, you approved this, and I've got all these drones in the sky above me. And Josh, it should be interesting in your area to see if the community is like, boy, these things are a pain in the neck. They're buzzing around over my my head, and they're annoying. So we'll see what happens. But this is one of the areas in regulation. It's like, okay, so I look at this as a precedent-setting release.
Yeah. So, and I did highlight that it was based on the FAA's review and analysis of consideration of comments. It is determined that with implementation of noise mitigation measures identified in the PEA, there would be no significant impacts to the natural environment or surrounding population as a result of the proposed action. So, and I'm going to highlight too, there is a draft environmental assessment for Amazon Prime Air drone package delivery operations in Tolleson, Arizona, which is where I live. So Amazon Services, doing business as Amazon Prime Air, is seeking FAA approval to begin commercial drone package delivery service from the new Prime Air Drone Delivery Center in Tolleson, Arizona. The location, it is located on the same property as an existing Amazon warehouse building in an area zoned for light industrial and general commercial. The closest residential neighborhood is approximately 1,300 feet west of the site. That's not very far. Prime Air would conduct deliveries from the Prime Air Delivery, drone delivery center to eligible delivery sites such as private residence and commercial facilities. Under the proposed action, Prime Air will conduct deliveries with the Mark 30 drone variant, which is electric powered and has a maximum takeoff weight of 83.2 pounds. That is heavy. Mark 30's proposed operating range is 7.5 miles from the delivery center with a potential operating area of 174 square miles. Proposed delivery operations would take place between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. Yeah, that's a little late in the evening.
Or a little
Prime Air-
early if you like to sleep in.
right. Prime Air proposes to operate up to 469 Mark 30 delivery flights per operating day over the course of 365 operating days per year for a total of roughly 171,329 annual delivery operations.
They don't
There will
take
be
any
very-
days off, huh?
Well, I mean, here's the deal. What's gonna stop them from doing deliveries, right? It's gonna be weather. This is Arizona. Like the worst weather we have is a windstorm. like,
and
so-
heat.
And-
You know,
I
They-
think
yeah,
heat's
I mean,
worse
they take
weather
that
than
into
wind.
account, though. What's
Well,
that?
yeah.
I think the heat is worse than wind.
Possibly, yeah. So, I mean, well, we get the haboops blowing around. They get some pretty fast winds going. But
don't they still
at the same
depend
time, I would
on
agree.
people getting things ready to go and putting the packages where they need to be? And do they not take
Well,
vacation days? Are they not closed
It's
for
Amazon.
holidays?
it's Amazon.
Amazon. Right.
That's all you have to say. It's Amazon, right?
Right.
So, it's funny because I got a notice in my email saying that they were going to start this up, and I never got a form for comments or anything like that. It's just a hey, if you want to do this, click here, right? And
Are you gonna try it?
Yeah, I signed up for it, but obviously it hasn't been approved yet. And from what I gather, the gist of it is when you place your order, they give you a QR code, and you print that QR code on a piece of paper, and you put that paper where you want your delivery at.
Gotta put
And
it
the
on the
drone
roof of my
scans
house.
the QR code, and then that's where it puts the package. So, but they haven't obviously started yet. But
As I mentioned earlier, the public's response in something like this is critically important. And Google Wing, in contrast, has produced a document for their own people as well as as they've given it out, and it takes you through. This is the way you introduce the public to drone delivery, and you make it, this is what you communicate your objectives. You meet with the municipalities, you meet with public safety, a lot of communication. So in the case of Amazon, what did they do? Nothing. So pretty interesting, and we'll see how they do. And I mean, their article. So what? Google is over 450,000 deliveries of their product. So, and we know that Amazon has not been fortunate in terms of an approval of type certification of their aircraft. So, they've been at this a long time, and well, I'll assume that they're frustrated with working with the FAA.
fair. All right, guys, that's all I've got. Dave, you got anything tonight?
I'll just mention again, we're continuing. Alex and I are continuing to work with the drone safety team, and this could be as fascinating as watching paint dry, but it's one of those things that we dig into or we work on because we think that it really might benefit recreational operators. And so the drone safety team is working on one piece of a report, which will be creating a safety management system for a variety of different size companies. And if you search on SMS for crewed or manned aviation, you'll see that it is a huge set of documentations and doctrine, and it's what does a company need to do to be completely safe flying cargo or personnel. And so what's the right way to scale that down as you get smaller and smaller, or if you're running in recreational. And so we are hopeful that one of the use cases or scenarios that's going to be studied is recreational. And that's positive because we're helping to educate the drone safety team as well as their constituents. And the drone safety team is a who's who of about 80 companies and organizations in the manned and unmanned aviation industry. And so that's in flight and with a projected publication, I believe, of March 2025. Alex, want to add anything to that or the broader scope of what the DST project is? Whatever.
I think you covered it pretty well, Dave. I don't have anything to add to it.
Okay. So as I say, this is, so what does the FPVFC do? It's sitting in meetings like this, and the folks staffing this sub-project are fantastic. They're representatives from Verizon, who I learned is still in the drone business, even though their division was dramatically reduced. We've got FAA people involved, and they're great. And we've got folks from Boeing and Amazon. And so a great bunch of folks, and Alex and I are the only representatives for recreational. So happy to be there. Yes, and Boeing has an SMS for their WISC, and so yes, they absolutely have an SMS. Yeah, a little too early to talk about the problems that Boeing has had. It's a critically important company to us in the United States, but the folks that we've had the privilege of working with from Boeing are absolutely top notch.
Absolutely.
All right. That's all I had, Josh.
Alex, you got anything for us, buddy?
Yeah, so last week we had the Multi-GP Global Championships, and so at the end of that, we had some very interesting results from Pro Class. In the Final Four, there were no American competitors, which was surprising. We had Propsicle and Hyper crash out in the semifinals. But in our Final Four, we had 2 pilots from South Korea. We had a pilot from Denmark and one from Poland.
Nice.
And in a surprise, MCK did not win. It was Pavelos from Poland who became the new champion, with Min-jae from South Korea taking second, and MCK took third, with Chris M from Denmark taking fourth. So it was a very surprising top 16 finals. Unsure of who was going to take it. MCK was the top qualifier. Hyper did design the track, and it was a pretty good track, except for the second cube. That's just my opinion. I didn't like the second cube. But other than that, it was a pretty good track. It was great at night. The LEDs were awesome.
That's cool.
But it was a fast track, and so yeah.
Alex, where can we find some videos of the race? I watched one of the faster pilots flying at night, mind-numbing to me. Just incredible accuracy and speed.
So all of it can be found from the Multi-GP website, looking at the championship and the results for 2024. I also posted a link in our YouTube chat, so that should be there too.
Nice.
So,
thank you.
Anyone
and
wants to go look at those results and the live streams, there should be time marked.
Congratulations for your results as well, Alex. Great results.
He's so modest.
I was just racing in sports class, so not
hey, still, it's a win's a win, right?
Very fast.
All right.
Very, very fast.
Dan, you got anything to wrap us up this evening?
Nothing for me this week.
All right, guys. So I'll give you back probably about 10 minutes after we finish up. Guys, I appreciate you joining us this evening. Again, if there's anything you'd like us to cover, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to take community suggestions on news articles or anything that's going on around the country and around the world, obviously. But yeah, feel free to reach out to us on that stuff. Super appreciate y'all joining us this evening. And we'll see you again in another couple of weeks. And guys, thank you for being here tonight and helping out. So appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Have a great
Take care.
night.
Have a good evening.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.